Hey, IOStax here. If you clicked on this video, you're probably one of the many players looking to climb the ranked ladder. Due to the volatility of random players, most players opt to queue with friends, thinking that it's going to give them a better experience. After all, playing with friends means that you are playing with like-minded players, can swap to counter the enemy team, and communicate and coordinate your plays better. Right? Well, actually, let's talk about the Overwatch ranked system a bit. But first, this video is sponsored by my website, iostax.com. If you're interested in professional coaching, head on over and check out the various services I offer. Alright, so first things first, how does the Overwatch ranked system actually work? Most modern matchmaking systems are based on the so-called ELO system. Invented by Arpad Elo, the ELO rating system is a method for calculating the relative skill levels of players in zero-sum games such as chess. The idea is that instead of measuring a player's absolute skill level, you look at relative skill levels instead. Let's take a look at an example. Let's say we have two teams of 5 players. In its current iteration, the game tries to equalize the average ELO rating between players. If one team has a tank with an ELO value of 2000, the other tank should ideally also have an ELO value of 2000. If one team has a pair of 2500 ELO DPS players, the other team should have a similar pair. And if one team has a 3000 ELO support and a 1500 ELO support, then the other team should have skill equivalent players as well. We can find this in a quote from the Overwatch team. We'll try to find pairs of similarly rated players in each role when making a match. For support and damage roles, which have 2 slots, each player will be paired with one player on the opposite team. This sounds great in theory, and it improves the ranked experience quite significantly. But the problem still exists, and Blizzard themselves have mentioned this as well. When players group together, there is the possibility that the group has a larger skill difference than a match we typically like to make. Those of you at the highest level might notice these skill differences more too, because there's far fewer players at the very top of the MMR curve. A matchmaking system uses these ELO values, or more commonly called matchmaking rating, to try and create a balanced game. For anyone who has completed a statistics course, by creating a group of players who group together, we decrease the degrees of freedom for the matchmaker. Instead of giving it one player and 9 slots for teammates and opponents it can freely decide to create the best possible experience, we potentially give the matchmaker a team that is vastly mismatched, with huge skill disparities, forcing it to create a similar skill disparity in the enemy team. But if both teams have a 50% chance of winning, then what's the problem? To understand this, we have to quickly define what ecological validity is. Ecological validity is a term that was initially coined by Egon Brunswick. According to Wikipedia, in the behavioral sciences, ecological validity is often used to refer to the judgment of whether a given study's variables and conclusions are sufficiently relevant to its population, e.g., the real-world context. What this means for us is that in order to improve at a game like Overwatch, our decisions and the outcomes they bring us need to give us consistent and accurate results. If we make a good play, we need to be rewarded to conclude that the play was good. And if the play was bad, we need to be punished to conclude that the play was bad. But what happens if we are a 2000 ELO support player queuing with and against a 3000 ELO DPS? All of a sudden, we are no longer in a real-world environment that's ecologically valid. The same play can work great against a player of our own skill level, but by playing with friends, we are exposing ourselves to players who are either significantly above or below our own skill level. This makes it very difficult to figure out if the decisions we make are correct. As a dramatic example, let's say that we try to pressure the enemy DPS. This isn't fundamentally wrong, but because of the large skill difference, we get punished much harder for peeking them than we are supposed to. On the other hand, if we play against a lower ranked DPS, because our DPS friend is lower ranked, we get punished way less than we are supposed to. This means that from game to game, especially if we alternate between solo queuing and playing with friends, we get wildly different results from the same actions. This makes improving extremely difficult. There are other issues as well. Playing in a stack can be distracting. It can make you anxious because all of a sudden it's not just your rating on the line, but your friends' as well. And you're also more likely to play against other stacks who might play significantly more coordinated than your average SoloQ opponents. To summarize, in order to improve, we need an environment that is consistent. We need to have the space to focus on our decisions with no distractions, and we need to detach ourselves from the extrinsic motivations the game offers us and focus only on improvement rather than anyone's skill rating. If you want to improve and have the most consistent and fair matchmaking experience, SoloQ is the way to go. You should only consider queuing with other people if A, they are at a very similar MMR to you, B, they are not a distraction while you play, and C, they share the same ambitions and commitment that you do. I hope this video was useful to you. My name is Aostux, and I'd like to thank you for learning.